Back to last century, I first met Daniel at UBC when he was working on his paper on how China was over-reporting their fish catches and how this was masking some real effects. And I remember thinking at the time, wow, so governments know exactly how many taxpayers they have, right? Because they really pay attention to tax. But yet we don't know how many fish we have. And so I just very briefly want to open this session on Sea Around Us by saying that I think one of the most fundamentally important things that we can do as marine scientists who are interested in fish and invertebrates is to count them. And what Sea Around Us has done is it's allowed us to challenge these ideas around, oh yeah, she'll be right, there's enough fish, this is all sweet, our fisheries are sustainably managed, and to actually give us the data and therefore the power and the knowledge that we need to challenge and have better expectations for our oceans. So that's why I think Sea Around Us is so important. Its applications are diverse and wide-ranging, and we'll be hearing about a lot of those this afternoon, starting with Daniel, who needs no other introduction after Donna's this morning.
99, in the middle of 99, with a big grant from Pew. I don't want to tell you the story that led to the grant, but it was reported in Science and it was kind of amusing. Anyway, we started with a big grant and the local newspaper noticed that. And we started with a proviso that the first 2 years would be productive. We would make a good impression and we could get more following that. And the first paper that was produced that really had a big impact was a demonstration, mainly by Willy Christensen and company, that the big fish had declined in the North Atlantic by a factor of 10. The fish of trophic level 3.5 and more. And this convinced Pew that we should continue and expand to other areas. And the next paper was indeed that we could demonstrate that China was over-reporting its catch. You can see some of the points going, the open points where a progression, exponential progression of the catch that was augmenting by 5% per year. And in reality, it was not. And China protested a lot, and 3 years later, they sent somebody to FAO that corrected the catch by 3 billion tons downward. So it was an admission that we were right. Then we organized this presentation will actually be a collection of disjointed activities that actually have a common denominator, but it will appear disjointed. We organized, or we launched a big conference in Dakar using what was known at the time about 50 years of fisheries research. And then and others produced a CD-ROM for this conference that everybody got at the conference, CD-ROM, remember? And it helped advance research in West Africa. But subsequently, the work demonstrating that that in Northwest Africa, that fisheries had demolished the stocks was undone by a Japanese attempt, or Japanese bribing everybody, that it was the whales that did it. It's astonishing because the work of this conference was undermined by that. And then we developed a mapping where the maximum catch was mapped, and you could see that this was a movie, a kind of a video that showed the maximum catch being reached in California and a few other little stops, and then expanding, and we reached maximum catch in 95, 96 everywhere. Now all we have is a slow decline. And we also, in the year before, after that, we had a global study of the daughter of Willie Christensen, of all marine mammals. They declined like crazy, and some of them are recovering in the last decade, and birds declining, seabirds declining all over the world. So this is all related to. Then we worked on fuel consumption by the fleets of the world. This is a big problem. We continue to work on that. And we made it into the science time of the New York Times. This was a heady time. And we started working on subsidies. That work has continued. It had a big influence on the WTO, but the WTO eventually failed the world because they didn't really abolish subsidies. Now there are certain limits on subsidies, but really not important one. And we also began in 2011. I was pushed into this by a student of mine who is now very successful, Jennifer Jacquet. She's now in Florida, to look at the Marine Stewardship Council and other initiatives that we could show really are not helping conservation. And it was a challenge because this was the first time that a group devoted to conservation turned against the MSC, which in the meantime has become an adjunct to the industry. It's not really a conservation group anymore. In 2008, we wrote a big paper estimating how much discard occurred in the world. This was the Zeller mainly taking the lead. It had been estimated at 18 million tons in the 90s, but it probably was too high. Anyway, this is by now about 10 million tons per year. And in that period also, we began with William Chang and as a postdoc, and Vicky as a research assistant, I think at the time, to work on global change. And William was in charge of making a model equivalent to a Volkswagen. He produced a model equivalent to a Cadillac. It was beautiful. Now it is still a descendant of that model that he used for lots of the work he does for IPCC. And this is the first map that was shown for the sea that the IPCC included in its summary for policymakers. And I had another student working on IFMO, which Regional Fishery Management Organization, and she concluded that they all, perhaps with the exception of Camela in the Antarctic, are not doing their job. And she went to the United Nations in New York to present that, and some people tried to jump on her, and at that point she could say the person was acting very badly. How do you know the data? Where do you get this data? And it was from your website. Yeah. So that was very nice. Then we started the reconstruction. We started little by little reconstructing one country after the other. And when we reconstructed Canada, there was made a absolute horrible discovery that few people in Canada know, which is that the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the good guys, they went to the Inuit community, Eskimo, but they're called Inuit now, and killed all their dogs to prevent them from being able to move around and to force them to settle. And the Inuit then, at the time, had a big fishery in the marine world for fish that were fed to the dogs, and that disappeared. And now they have, they live in little villages or whatever with running water, and it runs from the roof down into the house. That is miserable. In 2012, we also had had a PhD student who specialized in jellyfish, and he reconstructed the catch of jellyfish for consumption. And as usual, we found that the reports to FAO of catches were minimal vis-a-vis what is really caught. And then William took the lead on this paper about the mean temperature of the catch, and the result here is shown. The two slides are the temperate area, the tropical area, and this was validated by a student that I had at the time who compared the South China Sea, where the temperature doesn't change much, a little bit, the mean temperature of the catch going down a little bit because of fishing down in deeper water, and you can see that in Yellow Sea and the East China Sea, the temperature of the catch increased. Then we worked actually with Greek colleagues on showing that the aquaculture in the West is moving more and more toward carnivorous fish. You have Turkey, I think, France, and a few others. Greece, Turkey, and France. So what is the potential of aquaculture to feed the world? There is such potential, but only if they concentrated on herbivorous fish. Unfortunately, this is exactly the opposite that happens. In 2015, each of these points that I'm making about a certain year is only one example of what you did. We did other things in that year, but we have to limit ourselves. So in 2015, we wrote, Rashid with us wrote a big paper about catching tuna in the high seas. If we closed the high sea to fishing, we would catch tuna in the EEZ of various countries, as opposed to that it would be caught in the EEZ of about 50 countries, as opposed to be caught upstream in the high seas by about 5 or 6 countries: Spain, China, Japan, South Korea, and so on. And in 2016, we published the result of a 10, 12 years work with 400 partners in the world that estimated that reconstructed the catch, the actual catch vis-a-vis the reported catch to FAO, and this catch was 50% higher and had a marked peak in 1996, where we had peak catch, and it's declining since. And now we are reinitiating this global assessment. I will get back to it in a minute. In 2017, a paper that we had published in 2013 with William at the lead was criticized by this Norwegian physiologist, and we responded, and that motivated me to get back to looking at the gold, and my emphasis then switched to that. At the same time, or the next year, we had a revival or a massive application of the CMS1 method for stock evaluation, a simple method that Deng has taken the lead on globally. We can evaluate this mainly from catch data and some prior constraint. We can evaluate rapidly where doing stock assessment. And a few days ago, in Science, an article was published by Graham Edgar and others, showing that the complex model that people use, that have up to 40 parameters, overestimate the catch. This is not the case with CMS1. It doesn't have an inherent tendency to overestimate the catch. And this is a marvelous development. And we published at the time also, that's a paper we're then taking the lead, the biomass left in the world by climate zone. And this was a project in part funded by the Minderoo Foundation, an Australian foundation. Then I published in 2009 the second edition of this book about the gold, and this then delivered the last deliverable to the Minderoo Foundation of the fish left in the ocean. And the MSY, on the other hand, CMSY, sorry, was taught in West Africa, in the Philippines, in Indonesia, and elsewhere, and was from Valentina, who stands here, gotten a grant from West Africa, from a foundation, was a Swiss foundation, and was used to make three little films that explain how to do that and how to apply this method. And this film we distributed the method to Irish people, and then we showed the film, and then they could ask questions. We have done 3 or 4 of these workshops, and it worked very well. And you know, we have this goal of protecting 30% of the ocean by 1930. And the way that it will be achieved, if this is achieved, is by treating. Lots of countries, including especially France, because they are the world champion in this, is declaring a marine protected, an area to be protected and not protecting it. We call it a paper park. Now, I had a student, Valentina Ruiz-Leotaud, who sent a questionnaire consisting of one question: how much fishing is there in this area on a scale of 1 to 4? And we could then identify in which area, which marine parks, which marine protected areas are on paper exclusively, because everybody else in that country considered them to be fished. And this became an important paper that I presented at Impact 5, a big conference about MPA, warning people about paper parks, because this is exactly, this is happening in Europe and elsewhere. And then we have a new project for Minderoo that is funding us to redo it. And so Valentina made a beautiful compilation of all the people who have worked with the sea around us. How many people are there? 100?
No, it was like 200 and something.
There you are. Some of them were volunteer for a few months. Some of them were there from the beginning. And this is a variety of probably 50 countries and different sea. And Valentina also did this marvelous poster, which you can see here. And the future of the sea around us, well, first of all, we will work on fresh water. And the emphasis will be on the US, because we have done Canada, and China, because we have a project from the Hong Kong-based Swire philanthropist. The work on freshwater is in Canada, will be presented to you by Deng. We just finished it. It was partly funded by an NGO, by a department, university department at the New York University, who are concerned about animal welfare. And so we not only did the evaluation of how much is caught in freshwater in Canada, only by tonnage, but also by number of fish. And then what the job really is to find something to put it on a sustainable basis, because I'm 78, Deng is also not getting younger, and basically we cannot continue to live from the hand to mouth. It's going to be difficult. Anyway, so that's what we have done. It is indeed a quick summary, only with a few highlights. It shows a wide diversity of topics, but actually they all depend somehow on the database that we have, which is online. You can see catch data in a way that nobody else produces, with uncertainty bars and a lot. And the database is enormously used by people. And now they even accept the cost recovery. We ask when they want data to be downloaded that is not standard data that they can press a button. We ask them for cost recovery, because it costs money to download data from the cloud, and we have lots of people accept that, and that has become a way to offset some of the costs. Yeah, that was it. And no major scandal, no money stolen, no nothing happening ever. It's also good. Thank you.